All rise to the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Present.
Councilman Alarka.
Here.
Councilman Cypress.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation of the exits in the front and the rear in electronic device. Please put it on vibrate. I make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing for Terrabus 3 Senior Housing Development. Is there anyone here for that? Okay. You're representing the developer?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yes.
To the microphone.
Just state your name for the record and give the background to this so we can open the public hearing. Well,
Certainly.
actually, wait, let's do this first. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing and waive the reading of the notice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. May I take my mask off?
Yes, sir.
My name is Bill McGinnis. I'm with Sun Homes. I'm a partner in the Terrabus 3 Senior Housing Project Development. First of all, thank you for seeing me today. We're here to request a text amendment to the special permit. When this was approved in 2005, there were 3 restrictions put into the special permit: a limit of 3 bedrooms per unit, the 55 and older age restriction, and a limit on the finished square footage of 1,800 square feet. It's been 17 years since it was approved, and really this is a matter of the market we're building to. We've requested an increase in the average or the square footage of maximum of each unit to 2,550 square feet. Right now we've got designs for 4 different unit types that range from 1,800 to 2,550. Currently with the mix we're planning, it's an average of just under 2,200 square feet. There's 10 units that are 2,550 in our current plans. If those sell well, we'd consider doing more of them. What we're asking for wouldn't change anything else in the approvals. The site plan, the grades, the roads, the building footprints, et cetera. The additional square footage would be upstairs in the houses. The reason for it is the market has changed. Houses are, in 2005, I actually looked it up, the average American single-family house was 1,800 square feet. Today it's over 2,500. It's really a matter of what the market we're building to now. And this is, we've added in home offices and larger second and third bedrooms, and that's really just a function of what we've been going through for the last couple of years with more adult children living at home, aging parents, et cetera. We've agreed to the planning board and happy to state publicly that we're not going to come back and ask about the age restriction. This will be an age-targeted, age-restricted community, and it'll be condo as approved. And happy to answer any questions.
Now, you say that now about the age restriction. How's that guaranteed in the future? Because it's always come back where people have come back, changed their mind, and now want to make it bigger. And the other comment I get from a lot of people is usually seniors have smaller homes, don't want larger homes.
Mm-hmm. We're building right now. Well, first of all, on the pledge to not come back and ask for the age restriction to be lifted. If we were to come back for that, it's entirely in your discretion to say no. This is a special permit for senior housing in this zone. There's no allowance for anything but senior housing in it, and we're happy to say that we're open to any pledge in writing that you want from us, that it'll remain that way.
Okay.
And then in terms of smaller versus larger homes, we're building right now in Rybrook. We're doing 100 units. It's actually not age restricted, but we, as a condominium townhouse builder, about 2/3 of our buyers are empty nesters. Our smallest home is 2,400 square feet. What I'm seeing, the biggest differences are, as I said, second and third bedrooms getting bigger, home offices, and we typically will, for instance, we'll offer a base house plan with a hall bath shared by 2 bedrooms, and every single house we sell, they upgrade it to a full ensuite for each bedroom. It's just what the market has been asking for quite a few years now.
Is this a gated community?
It's not gated, no.
No.
I actually don't prefer gated communities myself. Gates break, and it adds a lot of pavement and turnaround, and it's always trouble, and also I think it's a little friendlier not to gate a community. But there's a clubhouse and walking trails. It's a beautiful site. It's surrounded by woods, and what we've found is that it's the zero maintenance aspect of it that attracts. I mean, I'm in exactly that demographic. A lot of folks have dogs and pets and want to have a garden, a private garden, true house. These are all detached, although they're condo. Everybody has their own private rear patio and a garden and a double garage, as opposed to moving into attached, smaller or stacked product.
Okay. Anyone from the board before we go to the public?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overly beat this to death, but Will, is there, I would have a concern if this at some point did change to not senior housing. I know you're pledging that, and I hear you, but, and it's not zoned for it, but our schools are full, and or do you feel comfortable with?
That was the situation when this was originally approved. And I think one of the things that you should look at is including the age restriction in your condominium documents.
We actually do. When we have an age-restricted community, that's what we do, and we're happy to do that in this case as well.
That'll be, in any
Sure.
condition that we.
Happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, what happens in the
So-
future when you, I'm sorry.
Do we need to see that before we approve this?
No.
No.
I mean,
No,
you
no.
can put it in the approval, that
Put it in
has
the
to be in the documents.
Okay.
It could be a condition of building permit that we show that it's in our offering plan.
Okay.
Now, what happens when you start selling them and you can't get enough senior and restricted to take up that much space? And that's what happens when you'll come back and ask for something more than that.
We've never had that problem. We've built multiple age-restricted communities. We're happy to provide any measure that you suggest.
Even going as far as posting a bond?
Posting a bond, oh gee.
Hey, now you got to put your feet to the fire. Okay, you think about it.
Aside from, I think, anybody's objection to that, I have partners that I'd have to ask about that as well, so I don't want to speak to it.
Well,
but-
I mean,
but,
it's just that, we've had experience, unfortunately, and other towns have had experience, where people say they're gonna do something.
Yeah,
Sounds great. I mean, I've seen land here go from, you couldn't build on it, we're gonna do senior somethings, and then it goes from senior somethings to something else.
sure.
And then all of a sudden you have what you didn't want there in the first place. They got everything they wanted. It just took 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, but they got exactly what they wanted. That's a concern by Medley residents.
Right, I understand. I'd like to take it under advisement and speak to my partners about it.
Okay.
Not
Just
saying yes or no.
Quick question. Just in my head, I want to clarify, and I'm making the number up. I know you're going to build more than 100, but just to keep it simple,
No.
you're using the same
60.
footprint of building 100 of them, but if you're going to make units larger than, in theory now, you're reading into that. So where you would have gotten, let's pretend, 100 at 1,800 square feet, maybe now you build 90, or do you have enough land that you're going to spread out to be able to build the larger units?
Well, it's 60 units. We're
Yeah.
building 100 in another town right now in Rybrook. The footprints on the approved plan, we are not asking for a change to the approved site plan. The footprints are designed for master down single-family houses, and we're going to stay within that. The additional square footage is going to go upstairs. It's, as it is now, I mean, the typical footprint on this site is 40 by 60, so we've got let's call it, just for round numbers, a 20 by 20 double garage. That's big enough to do a master down plan. That really hasn't and won't change. Where we're putting the extra space in is in the second and third bedrooms, additional bathroom, and home office.
Thank you.
Now, when you say upstairs, how many floors is it gonna have?
2 stories.
2 stories?
Yeah, our houses typically are what I would call 1.5 story. The upstairs will still be smaller than the downstairs. But if we've got a 40 by 60 footprint, that's 2,400 square feet of footprint. Take 400 square foot double garage out, that's 2,000 square feet downstairs. And then 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms upstairs takes us to whatever, 2,550 at the most, somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500.
And you are aware that many seniors have problems with stairs?
Yes, there's 2 things that master down. We're still going to have master down plans, and we're also offering plans master up with an option for an elevator. Now we're doing that now. 55 and older. I'm 61. Right now we're selling to people of about my age, and we offer both. And often people, because of the layouts, will take a master up. Sometimes they'll take it with an elevator, or they'll know that there's an elevator shaft there for the future. So we're somewhat agnostic on it. If people have a preference for master up with an elevator to be put in the future, we'll offer it.
And lift chairs as well?
Lift chairs are, we have a policy with our company. We'll make any unit that we build adaptable or accessible at no extra charge. And that's just it's just something that we like to offer. We don't make any money on it. It's just something that we like to offer. So if somebody comes in and wants a chair lift, yes, we'll put it in. What we'll often do is we'll put the blocking in for it. Then it can be, and any brand of lift can be added after.
And handicap accessibility, is any going to be built for handicap accessibility within the house? Wider doors and things of that nature, or is that built by spec?
We do, we follow universal design guidelines, so our doorways are wider, not all of them, some of them. The plugs are a bit higher off the floor, the switches are a bit lower. And then, as I said, anybody with a particular mobility need will accommodate.
Okay.
We've had all number of requests on that one. We've had no threshold showers. We've had we've modified garages. Whatever we get asked for.
Yeah. Public comment. There's a woman getting up first, sir. You can be next after that. And then a couple there, you can come up after that.
Do I take a seat?
You can, yeah, sit there in case you have to come up to the mic to answer any of the questions.
I wrote I'll get up here. I haven't done this in a while. I'm Kathy Croft. I live in the town of Southeast, and I wrote a letter to the town earlier this week and sent it in, which I will read. But I had a couple of questions from your presentation. What's the difference between a condo and a house?
It's a form of land ownership.
Sir, come up to the mic if you would.
Oh, sorry.
Single-family house is on its own piece of property, its own lot and property lines, whereas this is one legal property with common ownership of the common areas, and the privately owned portion is from midway of your walls in.
Not only that, you have to mow your own lawn in your
Okay.
own home.
Another question. Do you pay recreation fees on a condo?
Town recreation fees?
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, if you could let him talk into the mic so it could get picked up. Sorry.
Thanks. My partners have paid the recreation fees, and I think there was...
Yeah, they paid for the renovations of Volunteer Park, which was substantial to what they would have paid as recreation fees. They did that a long time ago.
Okay, I think I'll just read my letters. Okay. Switch glasses. All right. Dear Supervisor Hay and members of the town board, I noticed on the upcoming town board agenda and backup papers for this Thursday that TerraVest Senior Housing is in front of the board requesting an increase in square footage for their 60-plus homes. What I can't understand is why a senior complex would offer their homes in the 2,500 square foot range. The 1,800 square feet agreed 2 years ago seems more than adequate for seniors when they are downsizing. Minimally, before the town board makes any decisions, the applicant should substantiate that 2,500 square feet is now the norm in senior housing. After all, this is an increase of almost 30% of the original square footage. My concern is that the 2,500 square foot houses proposed is not desirable nor practical for most seniors, and thus the applicant may request a hardship variance that opens the Terravest development to all ages. If this were to happen, the potential is there for additional enrollment in the Brewster Central School District, thereby increasing our already unsustainable school taxes. The change from senior housing to open to all ages housing has already been made to another southeast development, Barrett Hill. Please do not make this mistake again. Applicants should be held to the standards and specifications that they originally asked for and agreed to for their project. And you did address this, but I did want to read the letter. And I also wanted to make a comment about the home office. The home office is not going to be a bedroom because it won't have closets. Right. Okay, so that's, yeah. No, it's kind of clarifying it. Okay, because it's just making it, putting it down on the main floor with everything else.
Should I speak to the next one?
Oh, yeah.
The home offices we have in our plans now range in size from about 8 by 9 to 8 by 11 and don't have closets. They have French doors, and they're not appropriate for use as a bedroom. There's no closets, and they're small.
And then I have one last question. Why, and because I truly don't know the answer to this. Usually I try to know the answer before I ask the question, but why have age restricted? Why do that to begin with? And I know you probably weren't involved 17 years ago, but is there an answer to that question? Why you would do an age restricted, what the benefits are?
Sure.
Besides keeping kids out of school?
That's the benefit.
Yeah, that's a good benefit, though.
Most people that do what I do would prefer not to have an age restriction. The prime reason is the town insists on it for approval because of school loads. Having said that, I don't mind doing them because they sell well. It's a needed product in the market, and we're happy to provide it. I'm agnostic about whether or not it should happen or not, but it's almost always done because it's a town requirement.
Anybody else from the public?
Yes, this gentleman in the back, and then the couple.
Actually, Mr. Super, this is in regards to another matter, so we can pass.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andy Shearer. I am a resident of the town, and I'm 74, okay? And my wife and I have been looking around a lot at senior housing. I'd like to know what originally, in the original 1,800 square feet, what was proposed in terms of bedrooms and the office den, whatever you want to call that. That's my first question.
Already, Randy?
I actually was involved back then. I haven't been in the intervening years between, and I brought drawings through Architectural Review Board at the time, and the footprints were the same, but there was a hall bath and two smaller bedrooms as opposed to two larger bedrooms. The bedrooms have walk-in closets now that had reach-in closets before. So there's an extra bathroom, and there were no home offices. That was really the difference.
So it was still 3 bedrooms?
Yes,
It was 3 bedrooms.
there are 3 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms now, correct.
But those were on one floor? Was the original on one floor or 2 floors?
No, they were on 2 floors.
They were always on 2 floors. Okay. I'd like to know what price range you think you're looking at in terms of these?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
We'll sell them for as much as we can because that's the business we're in. But if you would like to know what a house of this size costs, you can look at what they sell for in the town right now. Now, new construction always sells at a premium over existing construction. The best answer I can give is you can look at anything this size that's being built in the area in Carmel, Brewster, Danbury, and you'll see per square foot, stay within a 100 or 200 square feet, and you'll see what they go for. I forget what the other question was. How much they're going to sell for? Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, right. And we will be offering smaller and larger plans. So not all of them will be 2550. As I said, right now it's our intention to do 10 of those larger ones, and then they range from 1800 to 2550 in size.
Okay. Since it's going to be a condo, and I'm not sure if you if she asked the question, if you answered it.
Anthony, can you talk more into the mic, please?
Sure.
Yeah, just for the video, just so. Yeah.
Okay. Since it is a condo, the maintenance of the grounds and the exterior of the buildings, and what is going to, if there's going to be a clubhouse, what is going to be in the clubhouse?
These are zero maintenance, which means the outside of the home is maintained by the condo association. The landscaping and snow removal is by far the biggest part of the budget. The clubhouse, fairly modest in size. I think it's about 2,000 square feet. There's a party room, 2,000 square feet. And that would be a fitness center and a party room, something a little bit larger than your living room that you can, with a bar and a fireplace and a patio, so you can host parties. That's really, and then the outdoor amenity is walking trails, which are enormously popular in all the communities that we build, the biggest draw really is the zero maintenance, and some level of control, I guess, by the HOA that people can't change their homes, that they're maintained consistently throughout the community.
I think that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we don't normally close the public hearing. We leave it open for 10 days for written comment, which means it could be on the next agenda at that point in time. So I'll make a motion to extend the written comment for 10 days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Putnam County Sheriff Kevin McConville, would you like to speak this evening? Thank you for asking, and thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Supervisor Hay and members of the Town Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you this evening. I want to talk to you about a few things we're doing at the Sheriff's Department that'll have a direct impact upon you and the residents of the town of Southeast. One is a notification system that we've already implemented and tested. So the supervisor and the people that he's designated will get a text message on their phone for any subject matter or incident that affects the town of Southeast. It'll go out countywide to other towns as well, so you'll know whether or not it's going to impact you locally or on a far greater scale from the town of Patterson all the way over to the town of Phillipstown. We felt that that was important. We saw a need for that based on a number of things that had transpired and the inability to get that information out quickly. So we've built that not only for the county government and townships, but for our religious institutions, law enforcement, and our schools. It was critically important to do that for the school systems based on a number of factors and incidents that have transpired over the years. We've trained our school resource officers and our sergeant supervisors to be able to get that messaging out and get it out quickly and accurately to you, because we know that you're going to be the venue to disseminate some of that to the public. You'll get an initial message followed by either a personal phone call or an additional message briefing you on the subject matter in a little bit more depth. On the matters that we can go into depth, we will, and those that are confidential and remain ongoing, We obviously won't be able to provide too much more information than that. The Sheriff's Department, we put our command staff together. It's a number of members that have a total of over 200 collective and 7 years of experience. They're well-versed in law enforcement and management, and we've begun to implement a number of programs that have already begun to pay dividends, not only for the public, but for members of the Sheriff's Department. But I wanted to stop here this evening to tell you and offer our resources, because we want to be your partner. We want to be the people that you come to when you need help, and when you need advice and counsel, that we can sit with you and provide that as it relates to law enforcement matters. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be the work session. Make a motion to go into work session, discussion noise ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we had this here once before. We had public comment on it. There's been revisions to it. We got a couple people that wanted to make comment here this evening as well. So, board-wise, now, Eric, I had made some changes, suggested changes at the last meeting. They've been incorporated, nothing major. Did you have a few things you wanted to discuss up front before we go to the publics?
Yeah, there was just one small tweak to 96.6 exceptions.
What page?
Letter A, page 7. I was trying to find my email to you, but I just wanted to change the wording of operation of lawnmowers, leaf blowers, power washers, and weed whackers to, and I apologize, I don't have my email open, but I think I wanted to use trimmers instead of weed whackers, and basically what I did was I went to some small engine manufacturers, looked through their websites, and found out the list of equipment and the proper names that they use for them. And I just think we should use the official names rather than a more colloquial weed whackers, which I think was a brand name at some point.
Okay, so we'll send that to the town planner, your wording?
Yep.
And make that recommendation? Everyone good with that, pretty much?
Yeah, I had a few things as well,
Okay,
but yes, I'm good
let's
with
do
that, yeah.
Eric and then this Eric.
I wish the sheriff was still here. One of the questions I had was,
Oh.
I should ask quickly. I think one of the purposes of this law, if I recall correctly, was so that we were having issues with some residents that, after hours for our code enforcement, and this law was supposed to allow the sheriff's department, like it had done in other towns, the ability to, take action in the absence of our code enforcement. And I just wanted to clarify, and maybe that's a question for Ashley, but is this accomplishing that? Because as I read through it, I'm struggling to see how they would do that unless they had equipment to measure the noise.
Well, the sheriff could, that part of the noise ordinance, the sheriff could not do. Actually, Michael Levine sent us an email today as well
I
with
didn't
his
see that.
concerns.
Okay, so I'll follow up.
And that was one of the concerns he had, is that we'd have to have more than one unit to
Right.
go out and the enforcement of it.
Yeah, and I know when we initially spoke to Ashley about this, who I think drafted this up, that was one of the intents. So I can follow up with her just to get some clarification. I also had a couple other things.
Okay.
On page 4, outdoor amplified noise, it says, the last line there, intending to be broadcast to other properties from the source. And I was just curious, I mean, what if it's not being intended to, but it is anyway?
Page 4, which one?
Under outdoor amplified noise.
Okay.
So I had that, I'll mark that.
Okay.
I had another one. On page 6,
Now, tomorrow I'm gonna ask that you forward that comment to Ashley.
Yeah.
And work it out with her, how to get that reworded before we put it out onto the internet.
okay. And then, so page 6, F1, it says special license, but everywhere else it says special permit. So I think we should just change that.
It's gonna be, it will be a permit, so where is that? Which one?
F1.
F1. I thought I changed them all, sorry.
And then also in F1, I didn't think that, I thought this only pertained to residential and that commercial couldn't apply for permits. So that is a question, and if that is the case, in F1, it says, commercial or private, but if this doesn't pertain to commercial, we should probably remove that.
Okay.
And then,
I don't think commercially are exempt in any way.
so in other words,
They have different hours of requirements possibly than residential.
so for the noise permit then, so 96.8 on page 8, where it references noise permit, can commercial entities apply for noise permits under this code? And then if they can, how often could they apply? So they couldn't apply for a waiver, like, hey, we have,
Like a blanket certificate,
yes,
like blasting and things of that nature?
yes.
Okay. No.
But could commercial apply for a noise permit, like, say, every weekend?
Every Friday and Saturday forever.
Right, that would be my concern, right? And so,
Okay, so,
I understand this is, and I'll follow up with Ashley on all this
Yeah.
stuff, I have it all written down, but, I understand it's just residential, but so for that section, I'd wanna know, is it just residential that can apply for noise permits? And, what is the frequency of which they're allowed to do so?
okay,
And that concludes my comments.
okay. John O'Connor, Evan?
No, I think not only did both Erics address it, but Eric Cypress in regards to changing the verbiage. I think the biggest concern was just more, we're getting complaints from a lot of residents that, like, the lawn contracting guys start mowing the lawn, let's say at 7 a.m. as opposed to maybe 8 a.m. And this was supposed to, I believe, help put it, to one of their words, a little bit more teeth to be enforceable, because I think a couple of the landscapers have told residents, well, show me where it says that. So, I think that's outlined in A, but I don't know, do we need to take it one step further, or will this, and again, it might be an Ashley question, but,
Well, it's definitely a living document, so it can be changed, of course,
Yeah.
at any point in
You know,
time.
that's
And we
all.
did change some of the hours with Ashley, that some of the things I brought up the first time.
Yeah, the
The
weekend
hours,
hours.
some of the hours were
yeah,
changed
okay, yeah.
I think it's
that's all.
7,
for commercial compared to residential, because I said to him, most people work for a living, and they're handymen, they wanna go on the weekend and they wanna do something, you really can't prohibit them. So, the hours were changed from commercial, I think we restricted it more, and opened it up a little bit more for residential people themselves.
it's, for this, it's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., I believe,
Like during the week,
daytime.
daytime,
That's for construction.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, residential's 8 to 9 during the week and 9 to 8 on weekends.
okay, yep,
It was like an hour's difference.
okay.
John? Okay. Now, this is not a public hearing, but we will allow some public comment this evening, like we should. So if anyone would like to come up and speak to that, please do that. Mike, I got your email today, but you're here in person. That makes it even better.
You're quick, I just sent that out.
I know. We do a lot of reading all day long, trust me.
The town board did a great job on this ordinance. It's pretty fair to everybody. I just want to make one comment or one suggestion, if we could. On page 7, on exemptions, C, operation of agricultural equipment or devices between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. I'd like to see some verbiage in there to cover golf course maintenance equipment. I know you've got mowers in here under A, but the golf course industry is a little bit different than the landscape industry. We have to start, we start 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to get prepared for golf for the upcoming day. So we're pretty restricted if we have to go by A. But if you could include us under the ag equipment exemption, that would take care of the golf industry.
Now, you know why ag is different than a regular one, right? farmers get up early and like you
That's
get
right.
up
That's
early.
exactly the same with golf.
I don't know if I can get you as a golfer to be ag, but, you know, I guess if you have some cows running around on the property, you can get away with it. How about geese? That work? I'm
No,
just-
no, we're still restricted on the time. My suggestion would be on C, to read, operation of agricultural equipment or devices and golf course maintenance equipment between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Mr. Raffet, this is for the only real golf course in town is Baco Beyond or more?
Yeah, I'm the golf course superintendent at Back Beyond. But we also, I think we have Vales Grove.
Oh, that's right.
And
part of Centennial is in Brewster.
And has there ever been a complaint about the golf course cutting the grass or anything like that?
No, but once it goes into a sort of,
Right. Well, I'm the only reason I'm asking is that because of that, I don't have any problem with you adding that in personally. And the-
What
it's
kind
been
of,
forever.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It'd be
What-
easy
what
to add
kind of
that
equipment?
language, Mike. I mean, it's not that much of an issue. And it actually, the law that's on the books already just reads much like that. So,
like this?
yeah, without it's just the underlying stuff that's new.
Yeah, but when it
So
comes down to the ordinance, I mean, the ordinance is the ordinance. It says 7 a.m. for mowers and that type of thing.
Right.
Then legally, I'm restricted to 7 a.m. Even though I wouldn't expect to have any problems, but you never know what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
I think adding that language of exempting golf course maintenance equipment wouldn't be too hard.
Okay.
take it into
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak?
Hi there.
You-
So we were
Okay,
here,
just state your name for the record.
Bailey Santucci.
Okay.
We were here the first time that this was brought up for the agenda. I just have a few questions still.
Now,
One of,
did you see on our webpage, they answered all your questions there? You got those okay?
so one of the questions that was answered was the farm animals and pets. Are they subject to being penalized from the noise code? This brings me back to the turkey, the infamous turkey, which in your town code, poultry is allowed in our zoning district and with our land size. So my question to you is, if a turkey is now going to be penalized, how do you propose to stop a turkey from gobbling? Your town code kind of is now going to be contradicting itself, because in one section you allow poultry to be, had on certain parcels of land, but now you're going to violate an animal that makes a natural noise. It's not the same as a dog that you have the control over. Don't let your dog outside, sit outside and bark and obnoxiously annoy your neighbors. You can't really control a chicken from making noise or a turkey from gobbling. So I still think that it should be an exemption. Poultry should be an exemption in this,
I just have a question on that, and I know nothing about this, so forgive me, but don't we, this is gonna sound ridiculous, don't we not allow roosters because they make noise, but we allow
Only on
chickens?
smaller pieces of property.
right, so if you have
Okay.
less than 5 acres, you're not allowed to have a rooster. Turkey's not even specified in the poultry section. It's considered poultry, but it's not, doesn't have a restriction on your acreage size.
Okay.
So if you have over 5 acres and you're allowed to have a rooster and a turkey, then how do you propose to stop a turkey or a rooster from making noise, or say you're gonna get a violations for something that you're legally allowed to have in another section of the town code? I think poultry in general and farm animals should be an exemption from this.
Just,
Well, then that would mean roosters and other things as well.
Right, well, it would go hand in hand with the town code, that over 5 acres, under 5 acres, it's the same thing.
forgive me, Valley, but do turkeys, are they loud enough to break the decibels in here?
No, but in July of 2021, our neighbor constantly complained about our turkey. I mean, turkey gobbles like a few times a day. It's not excessive. not to mention the fact that we have tons of wild turkeys in Brewster. So he constantly complained about the turkey. Mr. Levine came out with the noise decibel rater and deemed that it didn't fall into it. But now, according to this, it doesn't matter if you're at a decibel or not, but it goes based on unreasonable noise. So if our neighbor who is already complaining about the turkey now just wants to say, okay, it's unreasonable noise, I don't like it, now we can get a violation for something that we're allowed to have.
Yeah, I guess I don't read it that way. I mean, because she gives the conditions for what constitutes unreasonable noise. So I feel like as long as the turkey was under the decibels, it would be fine. But
Yeah,
that's for clarification.
That was kind of my first question, like, I think there is criteria for the noise.
Right, you know,
I don't know that I've
on
ever
page
heard a
5.
turkey
Yeah.
gobble, so. I don't know
There
what
is
that
criteria
is.
for the noise,
You know
but
what
it
I'm
has,
saying?
I know that it gobbles, but I don't know how
I
loud
don't know
it
if
is.
I did.
it has been brought to the town building department on several occasions from our neighbor. So now I just want to clarify, and I mean, in here, the response to the question was, yes, pets and farm animals are subject to the existing and proposed noise code.
Right, so as long as the turkey didn't gobble more than 75 decibels during the day, it would be fine.
Okay, so
I
then,
think that's
can
all
you
allowed, so.
clarify on page, I don't even know what page this is, because it doesn't say it on here, I think it's,
And I'm sorry, I thought it
Page.
was a wild turkey. Do you actually own a turkey?
oh no, we have a
Oh,
pet
okay.
turkey. So in the unreasonable noise, could there be clarification to this? Because when I read unreasonable noise,
Well, tell
Well,
me,
there is-
tell
there
me
is a
where you're
difference.
seeing unreasonable
I think
noise.
it's page 4.
But there is a
think
difference
six,
between
actually.
noise and unreasonable noise. I mean, if a turkey gobbles all day long, I mean, it is a problem. If it gobbles once in a blue moon, it's
But
not
you
a
can't
problem.
control the way a turkey gobbles.
Well, but if it gets crazy and they're doing it for an hour on end or 20 times a day for 5 or 10 minutes a day, it could get to be unreasonable.
Okay, I actually see what you're saying, Bailey. It's unreasonable noise or the chart below, so.
Right,
I think
and,
it's a
you know,
fair
if you have one person that now has an issue with a turkey that's been there for years,
Well, page 4 is the, you know, the description of what unreasonable noise is, but page 5 actually says unreasonable noise or the chart below it. So unreasonable noise is left up to someone's opinion.
so my request would be that you make an exemption like you have for all these other issues, other things in here, for poultry and farm animals.
Okay, the town planner will be reviewing the tape this evening and have them look at it.
Okay, and then I just want to clarify again, and I know it's in here, but just to clarify, because of the unreasonable noise. So if you have a building permit and you're permitted to do construction, and you're working under your building permit, but now your neighbor finds it unreasonable noise, are you going to get violated because your neighbor finds it unreasonable? And then if so, how are you allowed to work under your building permit?
I think that's covered with the exceptions section clearly. but
Yeah.
We could ask for,
And there's clarification, I mean, like, I didn't see, but if you see it, please point it out, with the exception where it,
well, I
You know.
mean, exceptions
the
D
exception, okay,
D, yeah.
all right,
is construction activity, so.
okay.
I think that's clear. And I think, just personally, rather than including a poultry exception, I'd probably rather just clarify unreasonable more, but we could see what Ashley thinks.
Or just eliminate the unreasonable noise and having the ability to have one in particular individual say, oh, it's unreasonable. It should just be based off of the decibel rater.
Well, there's a lot of issues in town, and nothing to do with your property or anything like that, other areas of town that people complained about where, you know, it could be music, right? And it's just thump, 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 thump all night long or whatever. And those don't register a high decibel, but they're, you know, they don't measure this decibel, right? Because it's bass and it's a low frequency and stuff like that. So that was one of the complaints that's come to us a lot that we were trying to solve with this.
Right, but then doesn't it go hand in hand if you have a system where you want to measure sound of frequency and something isn't hitting that? So now, just because my bass on my car or I'm playing music in my garage is just annoying, then you're just violating, I feel like, my civil right to be able to do that. I'm not violating like a decibel number, but now, you know, you're taking away my little bit of leisure that I have, even though I'm not violating a number. It just doesn't go hand in hand, just like the poultry. You're allowing me to have poultry in one section of the town code. I mean, Brewster was founded on farms. This is what we are. But then if one of my farm animals just irks my neighbor a little bit too much, now, oh, no, it's, you know, and I can't put a bark collar on a turkey. It's not like a dog that you could bring in the house and stop it from barking.
Right.
So-
I hear what you're saying. I guess for me, and I actually happen to live right by you guys. I have never heard your turkey or your music. But if my neighbor directly next door was, you know, playing music unreasonably loud all the time, that would drive me nuts.
And you should be civilly able to say, hey, can you lower that? Because it's
I know,
bothering me."
but sometimes
And not it
civil
turning
things
into a
don't-
screaming match.
Right, and
Right.
we know how that can end up. So,
Right.
But I think what we're saying is that we'll talk to Ashley about it, and I don't want to. If we take it, if we wind up where we were, then we've accomplished nothing. But maybe there's a way that we can accomplish everything.
Okay, I just, again, reiterating, the unreasonable noise and allowing one individual to make the determination that it's unreasonable to them and violating somebody else's right just doesn't seem right in this scenario with this. And that's the only thing I request either be taken out or adding an exemption for farm animals and poultry.
It'll be reviewed.
Thank you.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Any other one that wishes to speak to it? Noise? Wait. Go ahead. No, go ahead, sir. Come up first.
Dennis Santucci, 5 Shady Lane. Regarding the turkey, I just want to give you this if you don't mind. The turkey's been on my property for about 4 years now, and the neighbor complained, right? We're allowed to have the turkey. Mike Levine came out there and did a decimal reading, just was under the decimal reading. In the spring, he gobbles, right? He's looking for a girlfriend. Now, if I get him a girlfriend, now there's 2 of them, maybe it goes over the decimal reading. You can't allow a property to have farm animals and then say, well, you gotta control them. It's not like a dog, it's not like the music. If your neighbor's constantly playing the music and you don't like it, you send the police out there and he'll stop because it's a controlled thing. The neighbor's doing it. But this is a farm animal. How do you control a farm animal? You do the best you can. You wanna keep the property, otherwise, you see the sign behind your guy's head? Take it down. This was a farming community. The farm animals should be exempt in this law. That's what I think, anyway.
You want that piece back?
No, you guys can have it. Tony, it was originated by you anyway. I got it out of a
Mr.
foil.
Santucci, I just asked you a question. Do you want?
No, well, I'm explaining how I received that. I got it out of a foil and it was originated by you. So
We haven't had a chance
you
to
know all
review
about it.
We haven't had,
Thank you,
thank you,
guys.
Mr. Santucci.
Thank you.
Is that real? Okay, anyone else to the subject matter? Sir? How the hell would I know that was originated by me?
Evening, everybody. Michael Caruso, 3871 Danbury Road, Brewster, New York. Just wanted to follow up on Eric Larka's point. I think the board did a fine job on this piece of legislation. It's very inclusive, it's very comprehensive, great definitions, great structure. It has clear intent, clear limits, and parameters that can be followed. One thing I would just follow up on is if you look at your definition of outdoor amplified noise, the last 8 or 9 words, the phrase intending to be broadcast to other properties from the source. I do think that does create a bit of an issue on both sides, from enforcement and from observation, if you will. Because if you look at a hypothetical that just came to me as I was listening to people comment, if you had a wedding or a tent on your property, obviously if you have a band there, your intention is not to broadcast to other properties, it's to service and for your guests to enjoy on your property, for example. So that seemed like it would be a little bit in conflict with that clause. And it also kind of seems a little antithetical, right? We don't generally generate noise unless we're in a totally different function that should emanate beyond the limits of our property. Because obviously noise propagates in different ways for all those reasons that I don't understand as an attorney. It's way beyond me. It just doesn't make sense to have that, that clause there. I think we all want to keep our noise to a relative small footprint to not annoy our neighbors. So I think Mr. Larkin made a really good point, and just if you read the ordinance, it just doesn't seem to complement what else you have in there that is very deliberate and very logical. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm sure there's a lot of hypotheticals we could draw up, with catering or with weddings or with things that could be outside that aren't using outdoor amplified noise. If you had a wind band or something, with a wedding or something like that, that might end up running afoul of this. Because, for example, if the noise got really loud and it's not electronically broadcast, maybe it's plainly audible and unreasonable, not intending to be, because they wanted to keep the event on their property. So I just wanted to highlight that and just say I thought that was a very good observation, and I think something that could be just tightened a little bit to complement what you already have.
Now, you know that you can apply for a permit. Like if you're gonna have a wedding, you can apply for a permit, make it known to the building inspector that something is happening at that point in time and get a permit for it. They're
Yeah,
not gonna
and that-
broadcast super loud, but, it'll account for some extra noise that particular day.
Yeah, and I again, I'm going back to Mr. Larker's point, which was, maybe there's a need for a limit on number of permits, for example. If there's an operator who's not just seasonal, if it's some kind of regular business that continues to, exceed the tolerances, for example, I think there's good grounds to have maybe a limitation or some kind of qualitative need for one. If, your code enforcement officer says, hey, we're seeing violations by this class of business or this type of property owner, and maybe we need to set a limit. So I think they kind of work hand in hand, but like I said, it's a well-drafted piece of legislation. I just think that one little issue kind of sparked up in my mind. So I wanted to bring it to your attention and just say nice job on the law. So
Okay, thank you.
thanks. Have a good night.
Anyone else?
Mike?
It's on noise now, right?
What's that?
Noise ordinance?
I'll try to keep my noise to a minimum.
You already exceeded. I got my decibel right here.
65 decibels. I didn't come here for the public hearing on work session on noise, so I just didn't know if you were going to have a public hearing on
Yes.
any further revisions.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll submit my comments in writing. I have one or two clients with some comments.
Can you get it, when can you get them to us before we, schedule this public hearing?
Tomorrow?
Good.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. I just didn't know if you were going to have the if this
There will
was
be a
it.
public, we
Okay,
had this
great.
extra, we had a public hearing, there was comments made. We're having a session this evening, it's not a public hearing like we said beforehand, but we allow public comment because of the interest the last time.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, I now make a motion to go to number 2, on-site sanitary sewer systems. As you know, Putnam County several years ago came up with a sewer system inspection. Every 5 years, they have to be cleaned. It's a county law. The county is responsible for licensing sewage haulers, and something is not right. A lot of haulers are not reporting to the health department or to the town, and I would like, on behalf of the town, to send a letter to the county, ask them to possibly reconsider this law, to put it back in their hands. It never should have been put into the town's hands, because again, we don't have access to the information that they do. They grant the septic approvals, they grant the, not the exemption, but the pump into the system by the haulers, none of which we have. And I'd like to get a draft of a letter and ask them to reconsider how this goes down.
And I'll let Eric, I know probably what you're gonna say. Eric and I found out some information the other day that I'll let him explain, but can you just elaborate on what you'd like to ask the counties to do
Well,
first?
I think they should take it over, and it never should have came to the towns. It's
But they do, like, keep their own record, so.
They,
what
in
do you
other
mean
words,
by take it over?
When a hauler comes out, they give you three slips. One goes to the homeowner, one comes, supposed to come to the town, and one's supposed to go to the county. We're not getting ours, a lot, okay? If the county has all these records, why are we, the towns, being forced to duplicate the records they already have, okay?
And that, I think, Eric can explain the
Yeah.
solution
Yeah,
for.
so,
And you write the letter.
No, I think there's just a solution naturally coming.
Well, that's,
yeah, I mean, yes and no. I agree with Tony. It was a county law, and for some reason it got dumped on our lap. But the county, my understanding, keeps like the master record of all the septic systems, and
ours.
And yes, and Mike Barlotti, the county clerk, mentioned yesterday or the day before to me that they are going to create a system where the public will have access to that information. So one solution could be, and I don't think this is the solution, but one solution could be that our building department could query in the county's system to determine if the hauler had, or if the resident had completed that septic pumping inspection. So then we could tell all the haulers, don't send us the information, and we wouldn't have to retain it all. But what would be the perfect solution to me is that since this is a county law, that the health department, since they're getting the information, since they have it, that they do the enforcement of it. I don't necessarily know why.
Can I make a point?
Yes.
The reason why it's set up like this is that if the document is not at the building department, when somebody goes to sell their property, it shows up, and then they're forced to have the septic system inspected.
And isn't it also checked when they're doing a permit, a building permit for something?
I think they did make me-
Sporadically.
When I pulled my building permit to do my basement, they made me provide, and I had mine pumped and inspected, but the gentleman, the company that did it, did not forward the slip to the town.
Right.
I had my slip,
So,
and I
so if we are
assumed
gonna
the health
continue
department
with those two checks, I think simply querying the county database solves the problem. But,
Yeah.
You know,
But what
plus
if-
Tony, you're saying you don't want us to check when you.
I don't have a problem checking, but currently, we can't do that.
Right, well, currently, they have it where a county employee can do it, and supposedly, and we should follow up with the county clerk, in the next few months, it will be accessible remotely.
So, one question for me is, so in the process, you're getting the 3 slips, so the one, it seems that, you know, obviously the homeowner or whoever's getting the septic service is getting the slip on the spot when the job is completed. And we're saying ostensibly, the county is receiving one of the slips and the town just never gets theirs.
No, sometimes
So,
we do.
Sometimes we do, but the
And the
thing
county
is.
may sometimes
So
too.
we're making a leap of faith that the sewer inspector and, the septic pumper and inspector is consistently giving the county that slip.
And that we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but, you know, just what we've heard is that some places do give it to the county. Now, you're right, do we know it's 100%? But to have two manually maintained databases is ridiculous, so.
I agree, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I fail to see, so why is the, you know, I mean, it's a.
I think it was, I
Why
talked
is
to,
it always consistently that the town's not receiving theirs, you know, like they're, and it's across a number of different contractors, so why is that? Is it because there's,
I
you
spoke
know-
to 2 of them, and they said that it was a county law, and they were under the impression they just had to send it to the health department. Because when they put in septic, I mean, that's their point of contact for a
Right.
lot of that work.
That's
So
understandable.
naturally, to them, that's where it would go.
Yeah, but there's a 3-part form that they're supposed to be using, and it identifies all 3. Okay, what we're gonna do?
Write them a letter. I don't know. You know, it sounds like if we can get access to the county's information as a, you know, as a more efficient way to do it, we should reference that or query that instead of receiving our own copy and maintaining a duplicate record.
Yeah. And again, we don't know if they're contacting the county either. I mean, when we go, if it's not in our file, I don't know if we actually contact the county to find out if it is. They just tell the owner to go and get your permit and show us that it was done.
I just personally recently went through this because I did my close today, and I had the same exact problem, and
I had
you know,
to. I
yeah,
called the
so-
septic hauler and they said, no, we only send those to the county.
Yeah, so,
But that's, there's a law states it's supposed to be all three. So
Right.
we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I feel bad for the residents. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't know of what's happening or not. If they don't get a receipt, they're getting ready to do a closing. As you know, they go in there, you have to do this here, and, they go crazy real fast.
Well, the other alternative or option would be, since it's a 5-year requirement, I mean, if we were to, if the responsibility for enforcing this were to fall entirely on the town, then we'd have another enforcement nightmare where we'd be having to check every property's records to see if there was a certification of compliance in the file.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't, much like rental registration, somebody would have to go out and issue them a notice of violation.
well, I mean, you could also do that with having a electronic tickler on it, so that if nothing's been updated within 5 years, it red flags it. And
I can guarantee you that there are lots of parcels in this
I'm sure there
town
are.
that have not had their septic systems inspected every 5 years since this law's gone into effect.
The 5-year check, I think, absolutely should fall on the county. We shouldn't take that on at all. But if, when you're selling a house and when you're doing a building permit.
Perfect.
If we could log in and check, I think that's reasonable.
Yep. Okay. So we'll send ask if and when it's gonna happen. Once we get Municity up and running 100%, that'd be helpful too, right?
Yeah, so the clerk said it would be mid-year, but I wonder in that letter if we just want to tell them that we'll be checking when we need to, but we won't be doing a full enforcement on this. And good luck.
I mean, every town has a similar problem with the way it's going down. It's just not working.
Right, I wonder if we should get with the other towns and send a letter together.
Well, the main thing is, the information should be available, it's not available, and the good thing is, when people go to sell their homes or have to do something, apply for a permit, we check it at the time, and that's one way to enforce it.
There's
But that's
also-
a slow
We
boat to
adopted a
China.
local law requiring this. We have this on our books.
Yeah, there's-
I realize that, and that's why it's happening.
I think also there's a finite amount of septic vendors that are within a 50-mile radius that people would reach out to. They're not gonna call somebody from California to get this done. So if we actually had an awareness campaign of some type, like a letter to the septic place saying, reminding them that they also have to submit the town form for compliance.
Yeah, but that's us keeping another set of records.
No,
Yeah.
well, they're supposed to give it to us anyway. That's that third sheet. So, but the thing is, at least, as someone stated, the septic, we know it's a county law, so we make sure the county gets it, but, we're also supposed to be aware of it.
The flyer we send out every year with recreation, everything, that saying it's in there.
Yeah, it says that to the residents, but it's
Yes.
not saying it to the contractors, because it's the
Well-
contractors that are not sending
But
it in.
it's the county that licenses those vendors, and they're the ones that gotta put their foot on it, not us. We have no idea.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree.
want to encourage
Okay.
them to send it to.
I'll put something together, and you guys can all have input, and then we'll send it out and see what happens. Okay. Next is discussion, Brewster Southeast Joint Fire District, about the ambulance service. Mr. LaGoria has requested to speak to us this evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Michael LaCory. I'm the attorney for the Brewster Southeast Joint Fire District. Thanks for having me tonight. The reason why I'm here is to make a request on the board, on behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners, to see if we can enter into some sort of intermunicipal agreement that would have the town contract for EMS services for the balance of 2022, which would be facilitated through the fire district or under the command of the fire district and the fire department. The reason why we're asking that is we cannot provide volunteer EMS services any longer. We've been paying for service for a period of time, first with supplemental manpower, and then fully contracting for ambulance service for the past 2 years. For 2022, we were anticipating contracting for ambulance services throughout the calendar year. We came to an agreement at our last fire commissioners meeting that we would hire staffing.
Who? I didn't hear what you said.
Okay.
Hire,
Yeah, to hire EMTs to staff our ambulances. Our previous arrangement was we had Empress do all of the ambulance response for the volunteer fire department. And the method that we had for payment of that was that Empress was billing our residents under the soft billing method, which was if the ambulance came, you would receive a bill. Typically, it would go to your insurance company. Your insurance company would generally pay the bill. If you were sent a bill and you didn't have insurance and you didn't pay it, generally there would be no further action that would happen, but they would generate enough revenue through billing whereby we would not have to pay for the service. So we discontinued that practice. We ran into an issue when Empress lost the county contract. The county has a contract for ALS, which is Advanced Life Support. The volunteer fire departments and ambulance corps provide basic life support. But when you have an ALS provider that bills and a local provider that bills, there's a certain level of incongruity in the billing practices. And effectively, as a fire district, we are not supposed to be billing. But the consensus among the number of fire districts across the state of New York has been to engage in the billing practice, because in our tax collection, we don't generate or collect taxes for to pay people to provide service. So as a fire district, the Brewster Southeast Shore Fire District, our budget doesn't include labor at all. We operate on a volunteer basis. We don't have paid professional firefighters. We do that entirely on a volunteer basis. But we had previously been paying out of pocket for ambulance labor until such time as we converted to a billing arrangement. We stopped that billing arrangement for 2022. But the town as an entity is permitted to enter into a billing arrangement with an ambulance provider. And so the request for the town board is for 2022, or for the balance of 22 and 22 only, that we attempt to enter into an arrangement whereby the town solicits a bid for ambulance services using the billing method. Not quite sure exactly what that would cost. We do know the proposals for ambulance service that includes ALS would be zero. We couldn't be in an ALS situation because we wouldn't want that conflict with the county. Effectively right now, we have a temporary contract as of this week with ambulance, where we're going to be paying about $32,000 a month for ambulance service, and that's for one EMT and one certified first responder. And that'll take us to obviously the end of 2022, and the plan is in 2022 for us to raise our budget so that it's large enough to cover this in 2023 going forward as a fully paid subcontracted service to the fire district. The reason why we're making the request is that previously we were planning on using the billing method. We were planning on that at the time we were doing our budget in 2021 for the 2022 calendar year. So we weren't anticipating having approximately $400,000 come from our budget to pay for EMS service. We are going to. We're going to provide that service and make sure that the residents of the community are served. What we're looking to do is kind of plug the hole for 2022 by seeing if the town would be willing excuse me, to enter into a contract for service. We'd be able to recoup a small portion of our budget if we can engage in that type of an arrangement.
What do you mean by that?
So we're going to pay $400,000. The fire district is going to pay for labor. It's going to pay $400,000 for labor for EMS service.
In the future,
In this year.
this year. Okay, your budget right now is like 1.7.
It's 1.7.
And now
We
that-
were not anticipating any labor payments whatsoever. So we are, effectively, we're gonna take 400,000 from our budget, whether it be from our general fund or the transfer from capital reserves after we take the appropriate measures to make a transfer like that. We're gonna spend that money.
So are you saying for next year, enter an agreement with us so that the BLS?
No, just this year, 2022. And I understand we're already in 2022.
If we say no, that's what they're doing.
Right, that's exactly what we're doing, yeah. So we could have the opportunity, instead of spending $400,000, if we could enter into an arrangement, go through the appropriate bidding process, and maybe have a contract with the service provider from June to the end of December. We could potentially save half of the 400,000 that we're gonna spend.
Mike, do you-
And that's what we're attempting to try to do.
Mike, do you expect someone not offering ALS to have a proposal where they're happy with just getting billing?
I don't think I'm not quite sure.
Because like, we wouldn't want to take a hit to our budget.
No, and Eric, there'd be there's an expectation on the Board of Fire Commissioners that if there was a budget cost for it, that it would actually come from the district. So for instance, if our budget right now is if we're anticipated to spend $100,000, but we can save, let's say, 200, cost the town, let's say a contract comes to you guys for $100,000, okay?
That sounds cheap.
Well, with billing, it actually isn't that cheap. It is reasonably possible to expect a contract to come in for up to that amount, I would say, based on the numbers we've been able to run. So if the total out of pocket for the district is let's say that contract is 100 and the district pays it and we still spend less than $400,000, I think we're ahead of the game. That's what we're looking to engage that process to see what we can find and see if that possibility is there. We were having a discussion, a larger discussion about 2022 and forward, going into the future, whereby possibly asking the town board to permanently enter into that arrangement, but we've had some time to spend with the assessor. We have a complete understanding of what that cost would be for a possible increase to the fire district budget going forward. The service we need actually costs about $650,000 per year, which would be 2 full-time EMTs on a 24-hour basis. The fire district is willing to raise its budget to do that, but what we wanted to do was make sure that we dotted every I, crossed every T, see if there was any type of intermunicipal agreement that we could enter into to facilitate not spending that money. When I talked to the assessor about what the increase would be if the fire district raised its budget from 1.7 million, which is the current budget, to approximately 2.5 to account for the additional 650,000 that we would potentially spend in the future per year. If your house is assessed at 400,000 a year, you'd be looking at approximately $10 a year increase in taxes due to the increase in our budget.
Why 600? Because you need 2?
Yeah, so right now, that's the estimate that we have. We have some quotes for service, and that is that's what would be if we had what we truly wanted, which would be 2 full-time EMTs 24 hours per day. Right now, the 400 that we're going to spend is 1 EMT and 1 certified first responder 24 hours a day. So, but going forward, we think we're going to need at least 2 EMTs.
What were the number of households to get this number? What was the number? You're saying $10 a household?
Yeah, but that is an average number based on assessment. If your house is assessed at $400,000 and you're paying taxes on that $400,000 amount, then that average number would be about $10 as far as an increase. Obviously, it'd be more if your house was assessed more. Commercial properties have their own assessments, so do townhouses. We haven't run the complete number, which we will, But what we wanted to do is exhaust all of our, let's say, do all the due diligence that we could possibly do before we would move forward with the budget increase like that.
Could you give us a little bit more in-depth description or so that we understand why it is that the system that was in place
is no longer in place? Okay, so like I said previously, we were in a billing arrangement with our ambulance service provider whereby the fire district was not paying any monies to our ambulance service provider, and the ambulance service provider was sending out bills for its service. So if the ambulance came, you would get a bill. It didn't matter if you were a resident of the town of Southeast or if you had a car accident on the highway, whoever you were who received service would get a bill for that service. We knew the fire district was fully aware that there's comptroller's opinions that say that the fire district can't bill. The Association of Fire Districts has been lobbying the New York State Legislature for years to remove that restriction. And that restriction on billing has benefited insurance companies and ambulance service providers because those providers would have to provide manpower for cost. That's my understanding from the Association of Fire Districts why the rules don't permit fire districts to bill. A number of fire
But
districts.
under your scenario, it was the company that was doing the billing, wasn't it?
That's right, it was the company
that you were
doing the
contracting
billing.
with?
It was.
So the bills weren't coming from the fire district, were they?
No, but de facto, they were coming on behalf of the fire district. So I have argued that point, Will. I think, the bills are coming from the ambulance company and they're separate and distinct. But we knew we were walking a fine line, basically, in the arrangement that we were doing. And when Empress was the ambulance provider for the town and the county at the same time, that system worked perfectly well. When Empress lost the county contract.
But it worked perfectly well, but it was still illegal, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it still was not in compliance with the law.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been trying not to say that.
He's avoided saying it.
So
Just trying to understand.
Yeah, hey, well, that's the situation. And about 3 years ago, a number of fire districts decided, all right, look, we have call volumes that we can't sustain. We have 2,500 calls a year in Brewster. About 1,500 of them are ambulance related. The numbers are astronomical. We have 5 volunteer EMTs left in our fire department. That's it. So we're burnt out.
I'm curious, there's a fire district in Patterson, correct?
No, there's
No?
a fire protection district in Patterson.
Okay, and they're treated differently?
Yes.
And why is it that we're a fire district and not a fire protection district?
So in 1962, approximately, the Brewster Southeast Joint Fire District was formed, which is a separate municipal entity. It's a taxing entity, has a board of fire commissioners who are publicly elected, has its own budget, which is then transmitted to the town, which collects the taxes based on that budget. That's the method that was chosen for the delivery of emergency services in the town of Southeast.
What's the difference between a fire protection
Yeah, I'm
district
getting
and a
there.
fire
I'm getting there. The difference is in a fire protection district, your town board contracts directly with a volunteer fire department. So in Patterson, the town board has an annual contract each year with the Patterson Fire Department and the Putnam Lake Fire Department. So it pays approximately $950,000 to the Patterson Fire Department, approximately $475,000 to the Put Lake Fire Department. A number of years ago, the Putnam Lake Fire Department determined that it could no longer provide emergency services or ambulance services. It gave the town notice. The town's reaction was to hire its own EMTs and provide that service direct. That's what the town of Patterson does, and it bills for that service. And it's capable of billing. As a town, you have that authority. The rationale for why fire districts can't bill is because fire districts collect money via taxation for that service. So we we own 2 ambulances, we equip those ambulances, but we don't pay for labor. So we're in a little bit of a disadvantage in the sense that since we're not collecting for any labor costs, certainly the residents are getting a tax bill for upkeep and maintenance of the ambulances, but they're not paying for ambulance service, they're not paying for any labor. And based thereon, that's why a number of fire districts have decided to just go forward and just enter into billing arrangements with ambulance companies, because if you're not collecting that money, while, according to the law, it appears as if you have a double dip, you really don't. You don't, because you're not collecting that labor. If we were collecting that labor revenue and then billing on top of that, certainly we would be in a double, quote unquote, double taxation situation, but we don't collect that revenue.
So you're suggesting that the town enter into a contract with a ambulance service, and the town would actually do the billing?
No, the ambulance service would do the billing. You guys have the legislative authority to cause billing to occur. You would enter into a contract with an ambulance service provider, just like we did. They would do the billing. We would maintain direction and control over the EMTs that would be provided. The company would bill. Whatever that contract price was, I think it'd be appropriate, and so do the fire commissioners, to pay that amount via intermunicipal agreement to the town. There's no reduction in your budget. We could potentially save a couple of $100,000, which would be a success for us. We don't feel like we're putting the taxpayers in jeopardy because they're not paying for that labor. They're not double paying for the labor. It also provides the opportunity. There's some benefits here as well. So one of the benefits is that we have a fairly significant call volume that's generated by out-of-town residents just by virtue of accidents on the highways, and car accidents in general. Those persons get billed. If they don't get billed, essentially we're subsidizing all of it. Very similar to the argument about having tolls. So if you have tolls, everybody who uses the roads pay for them, as opposed to just the people that own them. It's analogous completely.
And this, again, is just for basic life support.
This is just for basic life support, yeah.
Advanced life support is covered through the county.
That's covered through the county, and then you get a bill for that.
Right.
So if paramedic comes to your house, then you get a bill from the county. And again, look, it's a complex ask. We're not pretending like it's simple, but it's not impossible. And frankly, I don't actually think it's that complicated. I think if there's a willingness to engage in the process, it could be done. And there's the potential to save some money for the fire district if we could possibly do that.
Right, so basically, if we went into an agreement tomorrow, the way it was previously done, to your point, you're saving money, we're just billing it out. So my question to you is just really, why wouldn't we continue that model? Why even bother trying to increase the budget, in 2023? Assuming everything works perfectly.
Yep.
I mean, call it that you weren't in compliance with the law for the last 2.5 years, but it worked. Nobody was really, nobody got a bill, so to speak, because you were doing the soft billing. So in theory, if it continues to work that way going forward, why would we even entertain, raising the budget?
I think it's a mathematical analysis that we have to go through to take a look exactly what the fire department call volume is, and see where the majority of the calls emanate from. I think if you studied where those are, and that's the point where I'm actually working on that right now to see if I can give if we could generate that data. We have some, computerized programs that we use to track calls. A particular program called Red Alert that we're able to manipulate that program to get the data that we need. I think we have to all look at that data and say, all right, how much of this budget, how many of these calls are coming from residents versus non-residents, and examine that. And once we look at that data, then I think it's really it's a financial decision or possibly a political decision. But if you net savings that way, in my mind, if I'm a taxpayer, I'm more interested if the service level is the same. I don't care what the function is and how it gets here. I just want it to get here. So if the town board holding a contract that's administered by the fire district is the most cost-effective, then that should be the way it goes.
I'm in favor of this, I just trying to figure out then what would be the next steps, you know? You know, obviously we say, yes, let's put it out to bid, we're willing to go into, you know,
Yeah, so
into an agreement.
the next step would be for the fire district to provide the town board with bid specs. And once you guys had the bid specs, then a bid could go out. We would see what those contracts looked like. If the numbers worked and it was efficient, then we take the next step and possibly go to that arrangement. Obviously, the bid specs would come with the draft IMA, the intermunicipal agreement that would say these would be the responsibilities of the fire district. This would be the responsibility of the town board. And effectively, we'd only be looking for you guys to be the underwriter, which is essentially the contracting party. You guys have that authority. We would seek for you to use that authority. But as far as you dealing with EMTs, you wouldn't interact with EMTs. It'd be completely under our discretion. I also think it'd be appropriate if we were in that relationship that the fire district would be reporting back to you guys or liaising with the town board regularly. You know, because we recognize if you, what was that, Will?
So what a concept.
Yeah, what a concept. Yeah, exactly. But obviously, you know, if you were the holder of a contract that was administered by a third party, obviously, you know, you'd want to know what's going on a daily basis. We feel that it would be necessary for us to be present whenever you needed us to be, to let you guys know how it's going.
Mike or Will, this is probably a stupid question, but if a lot of these calls are, say 30% of your calls were coming from like Putnam Ridge, and I understand that sometimes the calls to BLS are, they may not need a paramedic or something like that. They may need to get somewhere. Is there anything that we can do to, you know, force them to have some sort of transportation for that outside of calling 911?
I think, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that Putnam Ridge has an ambulance service that they use, but they are not always available, apparently.
And do we have any?
I know that we do get a lot of calls that, whether they're true 911 calls or not, I can't speak to, but
So my understanding of Putnam Ridge is that I believe there's an arrangement for transportation, but if it's either unavailable or isn't going to be there fast enough, there's a determination that there's an emergency, and then 911 is called and an ambulance shows up.
Well, you made a comment recently, something about like unreasonable use of services or something. Is like, what is the threshold for that?
That was under the, we were trying to analyze the original approvals for what was NIMED at the time. It was
Right.
It was built in, that particular facility was built or approved back in the early 90s. And I think someone thought that it was built under a special permit, which I don't believe was
Right, that's what I heard
I think
at that meeting.
I think it may be a special permit use in today's code, but it wasn't back then, because I haven't found a special permit. But one of the things when they're doing the review of a land use under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, one of the things they're supposed to analyze is whether that particular use will have an undue demand on community services. And I looked at some of the environmental forms that were submitted at the time, and they essentially said no, which doesn't, it wouldn't impact today, it wouldn't negate their approvals, but if they are, if that particular entity is drawing heavily on our resources or limited resources, then we probably have to begin some sort of a dialogue with that particular institution and any other institution that may be seemingly taking advantage of or or unduly burdening our resources, and try to figure out why.
Right, because I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think they had said something like 700 of the 1,800 were, were from.
I think I read that statistic
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I shared it, so I might have gotten it wrong. But.
That's why you shouldn't have senior housing. You should just have non-age restricted housing.
The school tax is a little bit more than what you're proposing.
I'm joking.
Really?
I'm just kidding.
Send all the seniors to Florida.
That's it.
One question, Mr. Murray. So this predicament is because the ambulance is part of the fire department. So
Yeah,
I know
this
in
is-
other towns in the county, the ambulance service is separate.
That's right.
Such as Carmel.
Yeah, there are volunteer ambulance corps that do bill.
Is there any, I know I had asked this at the district meeting
did.
when my colleagues and I joined you there, and are we any closer to having that maybe separated out, and that way the fire district can still control it?
So, we wouldn't be able to control, the fire district wouldn't control a VAC, but it would take more than 5 volunteer members of our fire department to create the volunteer ambulance corps. We had some further discussion about this later in that evening, which was, is there a desire to have a new entity provide this service, such as a volunteer ambulance corps? There really wasn't any interest by the Board of Fire Commissioners. There was no one personally interested in creating a VAC, and if we had a more robust membership of volunteer EMTs, I would say if we had 20, that might be more likely. But we didn't get into forming a VAC.
But doesn't, so as an example, Carmel has paid EMTs on staff because they're able to do the billing as an ambulance service.
Yeah, but there's a willingness for someone to go out and have that corporation, to be the president of it, to administer it. And so I, given that we have 5 volunteer EMTs left, none of which were at the meeting, but the consensus of the board was that there wasn't really anybody in the membership who was interested in taking on that task of creating that entity, coordinating that, running that. It's basically a full-time job. Maybe it's a part-time job, but it's quite a bit of work to do that option. And when we were done, the consensus was, why have a whole other entity if we could do this thing, through the town board? And again, that's now been limited greatly by the fact that I think the Board of Fire Commissioners is willing to raise the budget to pay for this service. We have to study it a little bit further because we do want to make sure that it's more cost efficient that way. It may be, it may not be. We don't want to, look, we recognize that the town board is configured a particular way, and it's not configured to deal with emergency services. We recognize that. But if there's a possibility there where, to Edwin's point, we're not anticipating doing anything after 2022. I think these guys will in fact just raise their budget.
Mike, let me ask you a question. We've seen a couple letters come to your department with the mutual aid. Were really become a burden on a couple of departments.
Yep.
Now, I could have sworn their letters said a date, wasn't a date in February, by a date they weren't gonna be able to help anymore? Is that still in place? Did you work something out with them? Because you said something about 6 months. How much time do we have to get this done? I mean, this has to be done the day after tomorrow, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, the fire district hired ambulance to provide service, and that's gonna start as soon as possible.
Now, how do you do that? You out of your own budget?
Out of our own budget.
And
Okay.
ambulance is the company that has the county contract now?
It is, yeah.
And
Okay.
Tony, one other thing we learned at that meeting was, and I think we all, since it's not really our thing, misunderstood the letter to some extent. So they weren't saying they wouldn't come at all.
No.
But they didn't want to be first call anymore.
Okay.
So
That was one town's letter. The other town said they weren't coming at all.
coming all.
And we North Salem has, contacted me. I told them about the meeting tonight if they want to come to speak to it. And they've been kind of overburdened responding to Southeast calls as well. So the question
Agreed.
is,
Yeah.
It's resolved at the moment. You're asking us now to move forward. How much time do we have to get this done? I mean, I heard 6 months.
Well, at this point, all I'm trying to do is salvage part of our budget. So if we could get a contract together, and I think a reasonable estimate would be possibly for June to the end of the year, that would still be beneficial for the fire district. So I think if we provided you with a draft IMA and bid specs, we were able to get those out on the normal timeframes that you guys operate under. We would obviously notify all of the service providers that provide service, that are capable of providing service, so that they were aware of the bid and provided bids to the town. Then I think we could move a little faster because those entities would be prepared to bid on it. And then we would have an idea of what the number is. And if the number works, then we'd hope to move forward. If it doesn't work, then we know we're just spending that money out of our general fund, and that's it.
Well, if we did want to go forward with this route, is there any mechanism for them to reimburse us for the contract? Or does the IMA solve that, or how do we move money between these two?
Well, that's good. It's a good question, but I'm sort of hearing from Mr. Liguori that if we have an agreement whereby we are the underwriters, that it should be cost neutral to the town.
No, well, my understanding is those providers would only be cost neutral like it was in the past if they also had the ALS billing, which they're not gonna have. So the BLS billing will offset most of it, but we're expecting there to be some charge for the service that they will reimburse us for.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's, I would expect ambulance actually to, and I can't speak for any of the companies, because I haven't spoken to any of the companies about the bid to the town. But under the prior arrangement with Empress, it was net zero.
Yeah, I've spoken to them, and
Yeah.
that's the proposal I was given, that in theory could go into effect tomorrow.
Right.
That was
Still,
only with ALS.
But that was with ALS, which,
Well, I believe they were still billing for ALS.
Yeah.
Again, that's the rub, that they can't bill for ALS now.
right.
So they'll want to charge.
I just want to draw an analogy here, which is that, and first let me answer Will's question. So if it's BLS only, there is the possibility that it isn't net zero. And if it isn't net zero, I think it'd be incumbent upon the fire district to reimburse the town.
So if it was the $100,000 that he used as the example before, is there some mechanism for them to give us that $100,000?
Certainly in an IMA.
Okay. So then,
But I'm sorry, but eventually it's all out of the same budget. I mean, or bucket.
it's all taxpayer money, but look.
Exactly, I mean,
It's not for me to come here and spend your money,
But not
though.
in this year.
That's right.
Yeah, but
We're
either
talking-
way, we're gonna pay for it, make it up. Then next year, they're just gonna, instead of 2.5, we needed 2.6,
No,
I mean.
Next year, it's gotta be in somebody's budget, I
Yeah.
get that, but this year, we either need to find $100,000, or they need to
We'd
find
have to take it out of
$100,000.
reserve. We have
Right.
reserve.
I mean, could we take it out of our reserves, or surplus, or continue? I mean, it's the same. I
Yeah.
mean, whether they take it out of their budget this year, or we take it out of our budget.
If we have the authority to do it, we can, and we have reserves to pay it, we can do it. Mr. Liguori is telling us that the town has the authority to do this kind of thing. Is that under general municipal law?
Under
Is it
general
town
municipal law, yeah. But to the point of what could the contract number be? It was with Empress, when Empress had ALS and BLS in Brewster, ALS for the county, it was net zero to Brewster because basically all the money was going to the same place. I think ambulance probably has a competitive advantage holding the county contract, bidding on the Brewster contract. It could probably do the same thing. I can't say that it can, but I'm just following the logic of what had gone on in the past.
But we put out an RFP and that they would respond to, correct?
That's right, we would.
And what you're saying is that perhaps because Ambulance has the county contract for ALS, then they would be more competitive.
It's possible, yeah. And we haven't asked them that. the only thing that's gone on recently is the department had solicited bids or proposals, not bids, but proposals for temporary service. So we have those, we've relied on those to hire the EMT and CFR going forward, at least on a temporary basis, while we go through our own process, which we still will go through. But that's where we're at.
So Lori, is there a scenario, if we did this, in the fourth quarter of this year, that you look through the data and say, we'd like to continue doing this?
If the math worked, so let me say that the department had very significant concerns about giving up control over the EMTs, which I don't think was really well-founded. The fire district really didn't have any expectations. Well, once we got the tax information about where those numbers were, they're now chewing on what they don't know what they think just yet, but I think that we were anticipating an increase in our budget having a much more significant impact on taxes. And we've really been conservative about how we raise our budget every year. If you did a comparative analysis of the fire district budget versus other departments and districts, we're pretty low. But in my mind, if the numbers worked and there was a savings to the taxpayers, I don't see why the Board of Fire Commissioners would say, let's spend more money. They're elected just like you guys are, and we've tried to toe the line for years and make sure that we are not increasing and spending money unnecessarily.
The election's not similar, though, believe me.
What's that?
The election's not even similar.
I guess I'm just saying that because if 700 calls are coming from Putnam Ridge and 1,000 calls are coming from the 684, 84 interchange, and this works, it could be closer to cost neutral.
It could be, and if it is, great. We're going to do the math and see what the numbers really are as far as the calls go. We can parse out the car accidents and the highway calls and the nursing home calls. We're going to do that and get that data and put that together. It's the analysis of that data that really determines whether it should be permanent or not permanent.
When do you think that ready by?
I'm hoping within the next 5 days we'll have that data compiled. So we don't have any paid staff, so we have to rely on our own people in house for someone to get to the computer and press this and that, and I don't get to just go like that. I could use a Ron Hunt, but then we'd be spending a lot more money.
So you're gonna present us with an IMA?
I would present the town board with the draft IMA and a bid spec, and if you guys
We'll meet in 2 weeks. Would you have it ready by then?
that I could definitely do.
No? Present it to the board, we'll review it. We could always waive the rules if we agree with it that night or the following meeting.
I mean, my only thought is, do we have to, it's their IMA, it's their RFP. We're just, once again, to use your words, we're the underwriters, so, I mean, would we really, in theory, have an objection to, like, oh, I don't want two EMTs, I just want one, or something? Wouldn't we just take their proposal, send it out to bid, just to not delay any time?
That's what we do, but we have to see it to
send it out to bid.
We have to see it to send it out.
Yeah,
I don't
look,
know if we have any comments on the bid spec,
Okay,
but
all
we
right.
definitely
Yeah.
should have comments on the IMA.
I just was
Yeah.
understanding we're gonna sit here, we're gonna
No.
review it, no, it's
Not
not
me.
like, nope, I just wanna facilitate, send it out.
We appreciate that, but we also wouldn't expect you guys to do anything without looking at it.
Exactly. Thank you.
We're interested in numbers, I am.
Yeah, no.
Look, I think this is really where it comes down to, is what the numbers end up being. It doesn't make sense to not facilitate some sort of intermunicipal agreement if the numbers work. But if the numbers don't work, then they don't work, and that's it.
But I guess that's my point, we don't know the numbers.
Yeah, we don't-
Until we do the IMA, send it out to bid and then
Right,
come
right,
back.
right. Agreed,
I mean, so
agreed.
that's where I'm saying, I don't wanna hold it up and make it
Yeah,
up,
and-
if
and-
this can go out next Monday, and I'm exaggerating.
Right.
Then send it out next Monday.
Right,
You know.
and look,
We can always call a special meeting for exigent circumstances.
yeah, and we could also prime the pump and send the bid spec out before you guys actually publish it. you know, there's all kinds of things we could do to speed up time. I'm here to see if there was a conceptual agreement. If there was, I will now put my foot on the gas and get the legal end done, and get it over to you guys.
No, just take the governor off the gas.
Sold.
You know the governor, right? Not the governor. Okay.
No, I know where the governor is, and I've removed him.
And I won't make any noise either.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, let me get back onto my agenda here. Okay, let's see, that was gonna go into the regular portion of the meeting. I make a motion to do that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I waive the reading of the correspondence. All in favor?
Aye.
Approve of the voucher list, $3,163,040.16. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, setting of the meeting dates and public hearings. Let's see, what did we do tonight? We did Terravest Senior Housing. So we're gonna have to do that. Let me just do some quick math here. 17, we can do it here. Okay. All meetings be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, March 10th, 2022, and Thursday, March 24th, 2022. And with that, I'd like to put a public hearing to schedule for the Terravest Senior Housing Development at the March 10th meeting. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Tony, that was
Excuse me.
just the public hearing. on
Yeah,
Terravest.
thank you, Will.
We had that tonight.
Wait, time out.
We had the
Oh,
public hearing.
you gotta put it on the agenda. Okay, sorry about, I'll make a motion to rescind it.
I think we need to set the
We spent too much, I was playing fireman, sorry.
Do-
Okay,
we-
so we're gonna do March 10th and March 24th as our next meeting dates.
And no public.
No public.
And no
Do we
public
need a
hearing.
public hearing for the noise ordinance?
We will, when the noise ordinance is finalized.
Yeah, we're not
Okay.
quite ready.
Okay.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 5, Resolution 577 North Main Street Release Performance Bond. Now therefore be resolved that the performance bond filed in connection with 577 North Main Street site plan for premises located at 577 North Main Street, tax map number 56.19-1-40.2, in the surety amount of 14,000, there's a zero missing there, is hereby released and may be canceled by the issuance institution, and be further resolved that the landscape maintenance bond in the amount of $350 for a period of 2 years is hereby established for the project, and be further resolved that upon posting the maintenance bond with the town clerk is authorized to return any and all original bonds, deposits, letter of credit, indicia, or security originally posted in connection with the project to the developer, and be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the planning board secretary, the town building inspector, and to the property owner forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, Telstra Charging Facility, 1 Star Ridge Road, establishment of bond and erosion and sediment control. Now therefore be resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Telstra Charging Station. Bond amount, site improvements, $200,000. Erosion and sediment control, $3,500. And be further resolved that a certified copy of the resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board secretary and building inspector forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is, okay, we've had a lot to do. I haven't seen this much action on anything coming in front of the state in a little while. And this is about accessory dwelling units, how the state would like to basically take control of it over municipal home rule. It's going all the way from, well, we see mostly what's happening here in Westchester, Putnam, and everyone is absolutely adamantly opposed to it. I haven't seen anything north here, but down here they're really upset by it. So they basically put out a resolution. Most of us, you know, I wouldn't say copied, but we used other ones they sent out for a template. And what we have here is 3 of them. Do you want to do it individually or move them as a package? They're basically all the same, but they, I think, carry a strong wording to the governor and through our representatives at the state that we don't want this to happen. Move it as a package?
Move it as a package, yeah.
Okay. So number 7 is opposition to S.8006-A/9006, providing for state control of accessory apartment units, Part AA. Resolution number 8 is a resolution to, that doesn't look right, budget bill. That wording is wrong, I'll change that. S.8006/A9006- Part EE, Transit Oriented Development Act. And 9 is opposition to proposed accessory dwelling units law, S.4547A. Have any of you, you're aware of everything that's going on there? Do you want to make any special comments? I mean, this is not good. Not good for anybody.
adamantly opposed to it.
I think Peter Harkam should come here and explain it to us.
He's gonna be in a lot of places. I don't know if he could hit them all. Okay, so we'll move it in a package. I'll move them.
Yep. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, supervisor report. I guess I have to change it after I just heard what was done a few minutes ago. Now, we do have money available. You know, we have a contingency. We have surplus that if we have to go into, we will. We'll take it first from contingency and then possibly from whatever. We'll put budgetaries forward. There's money to get it done. It's something we have to do to provide to the public. It's really early in the season so far with the report itself. Last year's budget, we did well. We came out, some things came out really well. The numbers so far are according to our budget. So right now, we're in good shape.
And just a reminder, everyone, we reduced the budget last year, the tax levy.
And I was hoping to do it again next year.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Okay. Recognition of the public.
Good evening, all. Scott Seaman, Brewster Board of Ed. I'll keep this quick because you guys have been here too long already. Sometimes when I have our meetings, I appreciate coming to these meetings because we do never argue about turkeys, so I'd like a little levity. We just want to go ahead and thank you for what you've been doing on our behalf. Right now, we're having a community forum on Monday the 28th. It's 6:30. It's open to the whole community with any issues that you have about the schools and what's going on. And we can provide information and whatever we need at that time. There's a registration system online. Everything else is available. And once again, we thank you for what you've done. If there's anything we can do, please let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Seaman.
Anyone else from the public? Town board members?
I'm looking forward to this coming week. The New York State Association of Towns is having its virtual convention. It had to move it to a virtual again. They were going to have it in Manhattan, which I prefer to be up here rather. So looking forward to that. And then also tonight, big windstorm coming with gusts of up to 55 miles an hour in some areas for Putnam County. So if you put out all your summer lawn furniture, you might want to put it back in for another day at least, because I know it was a wonderful day today, but it's going to turn a little worse for tomorrow night, tonight into tomorrow. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Second.
Second by who? John? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Good night.